All right, joining me now to discuss is defense attorney Misty Marris. First off, you watched this trial extremely closely, all the details of this trial. Were you surprised? The public was surprised by this. Were you surprised by this?
So having watched this trial and being a New York practitioner, the prior bad act evidence and when that can come in, it is a very, very narrow set of circumstances that can come into the trial. So while I had a feeling he was going to get convicted, I think many lawyers who are watching this had the same impression that there would be a pretty good appellate argument for Harvey Weinstein in New York.
So not a big surprise to you because of all of the issues that were let into and the witnesses let into this case. I do want to ask you if there's another appellate case that you can kind of compare this to.
The closest is Bill Cosby. Everybody was shocked when that case got overturned, but it's the same principle. Basically, prior bad act evidence, meaning uncharged crimes, things that don't have to do with the case in principle, can only come in if it's to show a propensity and modus operandi relating to that conduct. It can't come in to impugn the defendant's character. And so it's a fine line as to whether or not that evidence can actually come in. Witnesses can testify. And in some of these cases, Bill Cosby and now Harvey Weinstein, appellate courts have found the judges went too far. They let too much in. And ultimately, that impacted the rights of the defendant. Keep in mind, Sarah, it's not just Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein. It sets a standard for any other criminal defendant. And that's why the appellate courts are very strict about when this type of evidence can come into the courtroom.
And prosecutors will really have to think through this, but judges will also be paying a lot of attention because judges do not like being overturned for sure. I do want to ask you about what this means for Harvey Weinstein's time in jail. There is this appellate court ruling, right, that says that this has to be retried, but he also has a case in California where he was convicted of rape and sexual assault there. What does it mean for him?
So as far as California, the New York decision is not binding. Now, the challenge to the California case, it's going to be a very, very similar challenge, but it will be governed by California law. So the standard is slightly different. As of now, New York, the case needs to be retried in order for a conviction. And would have to be starting from ground zero. Right. But he's now under California jurisdiction where he was sentenced to 16 years.
So the law there quite different from the law or different from the law in New York, or maybe not so narrow, but still it is something that he is going to use.
It's a viable challenge in California as well.
Okay. I want to ask you something, this twist that was brought up first by reporter and author Ronan Farrow, who's done extensive reporting and wrote a book on how Harvey Weinstein operated. He argues that this appellate case could actually have some impact on Donald Trump's case? How?
Sarah, it's the first thing I thought of because we're covering Trump gavel to gavel. Keep in mind, we just heard a Sandoval hearing in Donald Trump's case. There's two things that this is directly impactful to Donald Trump's case. First, prior bad act evidence coming into the courtroom. The second, the appellate court's finding that Harvey Weinstein basically could not testify because so much was going to be allowed in on cross-examination. The same type of argument would apply to Donald Trump. At the Sandoval hearing, that's where prosecutors are told by the judge what can come in if Donald Trump were to testify. They opened up the gates, the judge, to the E. Jean Carroll case, to the New York State Attorney General civil fraud case. Because of that, Donald Trump will have a similar argument that he's hamstrung. He couldn't possibly testify because of everything that's going to come in on cross-examination. It's directly related to the appellate division decision that we just heard today.
Did not see that twist coming. Misty Marris, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate it.